Hello everyone. It is Thursday, August 4th, and I am just sitting down to film a big batch of videos while I have a bit of time. And I thought I would start a reading vlog while I was at it because I've just kind of got back into watching YouTube. Like I've mentioned, I've been really busy. I haven't been making YouTube videos very much, but I also have kind of fallen out of the habit of watching them as well. Like I just haven't really been on social media very much for a few months, and I'm now falling back into it, and yeah, it just reminded me how much I enjoy watching people's reading vlogs. Like I think they probably are my favourite form of content, and so I thought I would start another one of my own. Also because I'm finally getting back into reading after what I don't feel I can fairly call a reading slump, because to me, I would be really interested to know what your kind of definition of a reading slump is. To me, a reading slump is when you want to read, but everything you pick up doesn't click with you, and you just keep putting it down, and you just like can't get into a book. Whereas I was more not reading by choice. Like I knew if I had more time, then I would be wanting to read, but I just was kind of focusing my attention elsewhere. Anyway, I don't know that I necessarily am now in a phase where I have more time. I think I've just come home, like really briefly. We're about to uproot and move to London. This vlog will it? Depending on how long I continue this vlog for, it might include our moving to London. So we're flying a week today out of Kinshasa. So maybe it will just be like a vlog of my last week in Kinshasa. I don't know. And I've got so much on. I'm not really sure how much I'm going to read. However, I have just started an audiobook, which I am loving so much that I kind of wanted to start talking about it, and I also feel fairly confident that I'm going to finish it over the course of a week. So I will actually have some bookish stuff to talk about on a weekly vlog. That book is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. When I use liquid eyeliner, which I'm currently using because I don't have any other ones, I think I left them all in the UK, it just always smudges onto the top of my eyelid. I don't know, does anybody else use it? Does anyone have any recommendations as to how to make it not do that? The other day I filmed a video and I literally had to refilm it. It was my catch-up video because I hadn't realised, and it had like blotched the whole top of my eye, and it looked so ridiculous that when I sat down to edit it, because it was just a short video, I literally decided to refilm it. Is this always the case with liquid eyeliner? Any tips on how to make it not do that, or do I just have a bad one? I don't know. Anyway, where was I? The book that I'm reading is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne, and this is an author that I've just heard so much about lately. My mother-in-law has been talking about him a lot. He's like her writer of the year, I think. She is just reading loads of his work and really enjoying it. And The Heart's Invisible Furies is her, I think it's safe to say, favourite one that she's read of his, and she's been raving about it and saying I should read it. But then I also posted on my Instagram to ask other people for their recommendations, and I had some really interesting comments on that about other ones of his that are good to read. So I'm excited because so far this book is it's just great. It's just like a really, really enjoyable listen. So the book is set so far in the late 40s, early 50s. So just at the end of the Second World War and the post-war years. Cyril has so far been telling the story of his mother and her pregnancy out of wedlock, and how she kind of like fends for herself and gives birth to this child that is him. And it is really, really, really reminding me of David Copperfield. It's just like, it's a book that's touching on quite a few dark themes, particularly the incredible cruelty and unfairness of this system that penalizes women so strongly for getting pregnant that they are like completely kicked out not only of their home but of their entire community, and utterly isolated and basically like left to fend for themselves and or die. but where men have basically like a free pass to abuse women in whatever way they want. And it's also talking about homosexuality at that time and how it was viewed and how cruelly people who were homosexual were treated by society and how that cruelty was completely legitimized and even encouraged. So it is looking at really dark themes, but there's a real humour to the voice and a real humour and eccentricity to a lot of the characters who are appearing in it. And yeah, it's just really reminding me of Dickens, but in like the best way. Very David Copperfield-esque. I think that similar kind of a miserable childhood that includes a lot of suffering, but is told with a lightness of touch that makes it not just feel like you're reading misery lit. The audiobook is lovely. I do find with books that have a real strong sense of place, like this one, that having the story read to you in like the correct accent does really add something to your experience. And so I'm loving listening to it on audiobook, and I'm really intrigued to see where the story goes, because I honestly just like have avoided even reading the blurb. I have no idea. I basically have no idea what this book's about. Yeah, my main takeaway so far is just that it's a really compelling story, which I haven't experienced for a long time. Like all the stuff that I've been reading in the background or that I've been reading lately, like I have read a few books over the last few months, but none of them, even though many of them I've enjoyed, none of them have been incredibly gripping. This one is incredibly gripping. And yeah, I'm just loving it, loving the writing style, loving the story so far, really loving being so invested in a story that like I'm kind of deliberately directing my day in order to allow myself to do tasks which enable me to listen to an audiobook so that I can be with the story. I haven't felt that way about the story for a while, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, this week is going to be kind of wild. I don't know why I've started a vlog for this week, because I am going to be so busy. We have basically like a social thing on every single day of the week because it's our last week here. So we're saying goodbye to loads of people. And obviously also just, want to spend as much time with friends as we can before we go. Tonight we're doing a cheese and wine night, which I will film a little bit of the setup for. Tomorrow we are going out for dinner, I think. Saturday, I think we're going on a bar crawl. Sunday, we're going to a water park. Monday, I think we've left. And Monday, the Packers are coming. So yeah, and then, I've lost track of what we're doing after that. But I'll bring you along if I can. And yeah, excited to be back filming another weekly reading vlog today. We're just in the middle of, you can kind of see all our stuff over here. Just in the middle of sorting everything out, because the packers for our shipment are coming on Monday, and we've got to work out like some stuff we're selling, some stuff we want to take in our suitcases because our shipment's not going to arrive for a few months, and some stuff is fine to just go in the shipping. So that's kind of what we're doing. I'm also working, and yeah, there's a lot on, but in a good way. I'm kind of thriving off it at the moment. And I'm really enjoying being back into my reading and back into YouTube. I've really missed this, and it's making me really happy to be filming videos again. Sorry for the weird angle. Sometimes it's actually quite hard to find a place to put your camera, because we have loads of windows in this house, which is lovely, but anything backlit looks awful. And yeah, I thought I'd just prop it on the table, which means I need to lie kind of flat in order to get in the frame. It's Friday afternoon. We had our cheese and wine night last night, which went really well. It went on quite late. It finished at like 1:30. And I'm really proud of myself because I tidied up mostly after everybody left, even though it was the middle of the night and I was really tired, which is a little bit of a Congo thing. I know when I'm in the UK, and there isn't a risk that if I leave stuff out overnight, the place will be absolutely infested in the morning. I'm much more likely to go to bed and decide to do it later. But I should try and keep up that habit because it's a really good one. I have been doing some editing this morning. My actual job now, like what I do for a living, is also video editing for like a different company, which is great. And it's really flexible, which I love, and so I quite often do that like on the weekends and during evenings, and then also kind of mix up things that I'm doing for myself during the days, which is super, super nice. So I've been doing some editing for work and also some editing for myself today. And yeah, I want to carry on with that this afternoon. I have loads and loads and loads of life stuff that I need to do for the move, and so I think I'm going to just set a timer and plow through as much of that as I can. And I also do just quickly want to tidy up the kitchen because there's still a few things that need sorting in there, and that's pretty much the plan. We're going out for dinner tonight. That is otherwise it. So yeah, I'm just going to do some of those jobs and continue listening to the Heart's Invisible Furies while I'm doing it, which I'm loving. It's so funny. It's like laugh out loud funny in places. And yeah, the story's really compelling. Just adoring it so far. Hey, it is Saturday morning. I am not gonna lie, I'm so tired. I'm so like introvert tired. I am just waiting in the house for people to come and pick stuff up from us. We're selling loads of our possessions and people are coming to collect them and buy them this morning. So yeah, I'm just hanging out in the house in that kind of weird state of not really being able to get on with anything because I'm sort of waiting for people to come, but also nobody's here right now. So I thought I would sit down and do a quick little update. Life is wild. Like, I have reached my point of introvert exhaustion from just constantly being out at social events. Like today we've got people coming all morning to pick stuff up, and then we're buying lunch and going to our church to get dinner for everybody who we've been going to church with for the last 4 years. We've been going to a Quaker meeting house here in Kinshasa, which has been lovely. I mean, it's a really small group of people. It's like, honestly, like 4 or 5 people, so it's not like a massive social gathering. But still, then after that, as soon as we get back, we're going out on like a goodbye bar crawl. And I just don't have the energy, like not the physical energy, I just don't have the social energy anymore. We went out for dinner last night with one of our friends here, and yeah, it's just like lovely but also so intense, and I'm sure other introverts can relate. We sold my bookcase this morning. I'm not actually that sad to say goodbye to the bookcase. It's like an old IKEA Billy bookcase. It's not one I was particularly attached to. It's weird seeing all my books. They're just like on the floor, homeless. They actually look quite nice. I've like put them all around this armchair that I'm currently sitting in, and it actually looks really cozy, like a little secluded reading corner. And the process of taking them all off the shelves and putting them in piles and just like seeing them rearranged kind of makes me see them in a slightly different light, and definitely just made me appreciate how much I love them all, like how genuinely fond I am of the physical objects that are my books. So yeah, that's been this morning. I wanted to give a quick reading update. No real updates on Heart's Invisible Furies, just still listening to it and enjoying it, but haven't listened to very much since yesterday. But I wanted to mention the other book which I'm kind of reading at the moment, which is Not All Things Bright and Beautiful, All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot. This is a book that I started reading months ago, but I think it was during a time when I wasn't vlogging, so I don't think I've talked about it at all yet. And it was one of Kate Howe's Kindred Spirits book club picks, again quite a few months ago, and I did join the chat for it, even though I hadn't fully finished it. I'm like here, so fairly far through it. But the reason that I felt fine attending a book club chat about it, even though I hadn't finished it, is that it's one of those stories that doesn't really have a particularly strong plot. Like, I didn't feel that anything would be ruined by attending a talk about it. There aren't really any spoilers for this book, but it's a really beautifully written memoir of a vet who was working in Yorkshire in the 1930s, this young vet. And basically each chapter is just a little mini episode story about one of the incidents that occur in his life, like generally him with an eccentric farmer or an animal that is being particularly difficult or something like that. But they're just like laugh out loud funny. He writes it so well. I'm genuinely like laughing out loud with every single story, and often they're only maybe about 5 pages. So I have been reading these at bedtime, and just loving them. Like 1 or 2 before I go to sleep every night has been the perfect way to read this book for me. Because like I say, there's not really much of an overarching plot line. There is a romance, but honestly it has like pretty much only just begun. I'd say it began like maybe this far through the book. So the part, and with the exception of the romance, there's like no particular overarching plot, but just these gorgeous little episodic chapters. If you enjoy writing about rural life, if you enjoy just general like sweet, charming writing, this is not historical fiction because it's a memoir, but it has that sort of feel about it. It feels fictional, to be honest, even though it is based on real events, I believe. So yeah, this is my book that I'm physically reading as like a little bedtime read, and I have found such comfort and delight in these as little bedtime stories. I still have maybe 100 odd pages to go, and I'm just really enjoying continuing with that in the background. Good morning. It is 6 a.m. on Monday. The packers are coming today, so all of our stuff is going into shipping. We're going to see it again in like 3 months' time. And we're just kind of this situation. Actually, it's like one of those things that's surprisingly hard to show on camera. Let me just turn it off so I can flip you around. Voila, okay. When my face was there, you couldn't tell what an absolute state this house is in. So this is stuff which we have sold or which people are taking or whatever. These are things which are going. These are all my books. As you can see, just the books off the bookshelf that we sold. And I have taken the decision to also just send basically all my books, even like ones that I'm reading that I'm in the middle of. So I'm gonna send, for example, All Creatures Great and Small back, because we only have suitcases. We only have suitcases to last us for 3 months, and I feel like I'm not currently reading anything that I'm so gripped to that I don't kind of mind waiting for 3 months and then just carrying on with it later. Like All Creatures Great and Small, I'm absolutely loving, but also just in a like, oh, that's really nice to read a chapter or 2 before I go to bed, or will I have a cup of tea type way. So yeah, I've got a few more books in the bedroom at my bedside table that I'm going to bring down, but Tom's still asleep at the moment, so I'm going to leave those for now. Then I also have a load of things. Sorry, this is an absolute... We were so tired yesterday. So it's a real tip. These are currently things which I'm just going to give away for free. Like some old clothes and stuff. And yeah, I'll switch you back round. So we've heard on the grapevine from people who have had the packers come that like they do an amazing job, but they properly just take everything, as in they literally take, like, they've taken people's car keys and passports and wallets, and then people have had to call them up and like beg them to search through the boxes and take out the things that they need in order to like fly home. So what we're trying to do is move everything that we want to take ourselves in our suitcases and hand luggage into one room, and then we can basically just say like, okay, you can take the rest of the house. So hence I'm trying to sort stuff into piles. We made a good start yesterday, but yeah, we were both really, really tired. Oh, still quite tired. So I didn't film anything yesterday at all, and I am just going to get on with doing some last minute packing / organising of stuff this morning, ready to go. And we are done. The packers have been. It probably doesn't look anywhere near as empty as I was imagining it was going to look, because actually I'd kind of forgotten the fact that basically all of the furniture that's here belongs to Tom's work, so it's staying, which means that the house doesn't feel as not like a home as I was thinking it was going to feel, which is really nice. I've moved like my computer and stuff back onto the table. I've just been doing some journaling, which is really, really lovely. I've completely got back into journaling since coming back home. I didn't do it much when I was travelling, and I've really missed it. It's definitely reminded me what a like mainstay of my mental health and just feeling connected to myself and happy journaling is. I think we all have different self-care habits which actually work for us, and sometimes it feels like they all get pushed at you, and then you feel bad for not doing them all, but I think it's just really important to find the ones that actually make a difference for you. So like for me, exercise doesn't make a huge difference to how well I feel. Like it's a thing that I know that I should do, and I really do want to get back into it when I'm in London, and do a form of exercise that I love. And I know it makes me feel happy, but when I don't exercise, I don't feel miserable. Whereas when I don't journal for a while, I do start to feel quite scattered and just a bit disconnected from myself. So yeah, I'm really... Sorry, just checking the camera's working. It is. I'm really enjoying getting back into that. However, that was not what I sat down to talk about. I was going to do a quick reading update. So, The Heart's Invisible Furies, I'm about a quarter of a way through now. I haven't been getting through it as quickly as I thought I was going to, but I think it's just because I've been so busy with all the saying goodbyes and packing up the house, which I thought would be an opportunity to listen to my audiobook lots, but actually I don't have a great headphones situation going on, and so I was having to listen to it on my phone, but it wasn't very loud. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't listen to the audiobook as much as I had anticipated I would do whilst packing up the house. So I'm about a quarter of the way through, which is still not bad. It's like a 20-hour audiobook, so I guess I'm like a bit over 5 hours through. I'm still really enjoying it. I'm basically just not as invested in the current character as I was in his mother. So my favourite bit so far, by far, was when he was talking about his mother's life, and now that he is talking about his own life, I just don't care quite so much. Especially he has got this kind of best friend / love interest who's come in, who's a boy called Julian. I really don't like Julian. You're probably not supposed to, but I'm kind of struggling with how much he kind of makes my skin crawl, and hopefully that will get better. Like, they're at a very immature age at the moment, so that's not massively surprising. There's like an enormous amount of misogyny in the book, not in terms of like author misogyny, but in terms of portrayal of the misogyny towards women in Ireland in the
1950s, and it's quite hard to read in places, just like the way that women are treated, the things that are said to them, the way that they're completely viewed as sex objects. And it's really interesting, this kind of comparison between this like super Christian society and like the abuses of the priests towards the children that they care for and towards the women who they interact with. There's just a lot of portrayal of a society that's not functioning well and that doesn't have everybody's best interests at heart. And that is done really, really effectively. The writing is gorgeous, the narration is wonderful. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it, but I'm just feeling a little bit less invested in the story currently because I'm not super invested in any of the characters. However, there are a few peripheral women characters who I think we've met before who are now coming back in as side characters, which is really cool. And everything's kind of tying together. Again, just like in a very Dickensian way. It really reminds me of Dickens. And so I'm intrigued to see what happens with them, and I'm enjoying that aspect of it very much. And I just had a message from my brother-in-law who said that he has started reading The Heart's Invisible Furies as well, and I think he's on holiday at the moment. And he said he got so into it he read like 400 pages in a day, which is what I think I would have done if I were on holiday and reading this book. Like, I started it and it was really binge-worthy, and then I've just been so busy that I haven't kind of been able to binge it as much as I would have expected. So I am definitely looking forward to having some more time, like probably The Flight. I will try and finish it because I'm seeing him this weekend. Yeah, this weekend I'm seeing him because it's Tom's other brother's wedding, and so it would be really nice if we could chat about it then, because I think I always have super interesting conversations with Tom's brother about books and films and stuff when we've read or watched the same ones, so it would be great to finish that. That's like a nice motivation for me to get the audiobook finished, because it's always lovely to talk to people about books that you've both read, but it's actually quite rare to talk to someone about a book when you've both read a book really recently and it's really fresh in your mind. Unless you buddy read, which I don't tend to do very much because I kind of feel a bit stressed by the pressure of having to finish a book at the same time as someone else. But yeah, this is like nicely fallen into place that we're reading the same book at the same time. So looking forward to talking to him about it at the weekend, and hopefully that means I will actually finish it before this vlog is out.
It is Tuesday afternoon. I am just going to get coffee with my teaching assistant from when I used to work at a school here. I'm so tired. We had such a rubbish evening and night yesterday. The day itself had gone really well, like it'd been really busy, but we got everything done and got all our stuff packed, and just like we did so many jobs. And then it got to just around dinner time, like we were just thinking about going out for dinner, and we got an email to say that our flight had been changed to a time that was just like completely ridiculous. It had turned an overnight flight into like a 2-day long trip that was going to get us in basically too late to attend Tom's brother's wedding, and so we then spent the whole night rebooking a flight, which has ended up being horrendously expensive, but it's like the only way we can get back in time for the wedding. So that was miserable, that we just like ended up not eating because by the time we'd sort that out it was so late. Oh, I think a car's just coming. Oh, one of the guards here, we live on like a guarded compound in Kinshasa for context, just said goodbye to him. Yeah, that's what I was going to say actually, once I'd stopped whinging about my day yesterday. Which finished after this rubbish flight booking thing, with us having like the worst night's sleep of our life. It was just, the house was just swarming with mosquitoes, I think because we'd had the packers in all day, and so
yeah, whereas normally we would like keep all doors and windows closed at all times. They've been open basically the whole day, and it was just horrendous. And we got like no sleep, and we've been bitten an absolute ton. So yeah, I am just going to say goodbye to my teaching assistant who I used to work with. I used to like basically live with when I was working, as you'll know if you are a teacher. Yeah, it's gonna be really rubbish saying goodbye, because I don't think, like, I have no idea if when we will ever come back to Congo. We've only been here for Tom's work, and now Tom's job here is finished, and so it really sucks saying goodbye to people who we'll probably never see again. That's what I'm off to do just now, but at least it's a lovely day.
Hello, it is Thursday. We are just back from our long overnight flight. It is like about 7 p.m. now in the UK, and I'm in my new home. I'm not going to show you around just yet because I think I'm going to do a separate vlog for like the moving in process, which will probably be filmed over the course of a few months, so don't expect that too soon. But anyway, the place is just like, give you a brief example of what the place is like at the moment. We don't have any furniture, so it's just a bit of a mess. It's definitely not looking its best, but it will look really lovely in the future, and it's so nice to come back and have our own place that we can just crash in. I wanted to pop on to give a reading update on The Heart's Invisible Furies, because I've been listening to it a lot on the plane and I have a lot of thoughts about it. It's actually not gone exactly in like the direction that I was imagining that it was going to, and I think this is a really good thing. So yeah, just like lots of my initial takes on characters have changed. So my initial fondness for the main character has definitely reduced, whilst I also feel massively sympathetic for him. It's like a really good balance of you completely and utterly understanding why he makes all the decisions that he makes and feeling really bad for him in the way that he has to make all of those decisions, but also seeing what a like awful impact on other people's lives those decisions are having. So that's really interesting, and I really like the way that it's done. It is still reminding me a lot of a Dickens, of like David Copperfield. In fact, there was even one kind of quite meta line where he makes some kind of comment about like, I'm not some sort of Dickensian orphan. And yeah, I think he's probably kind of comparing himself to like David Copperfield or Oliver Twist or one of those kind of famous Dickensian characters, because it does still very much have that feel to it. Like I say, I'm now about a bit over halfway through, and that thing is happening where characters who you met early on in the book are like popping up again in a way that isn't really realistic. I don't know if there's a name for that technique, as in just like so many character coincidences, which is a trait that I really enjoy. I really love seeing character stories worked through, and I really love that sense of like the small world of a novel. And I know that it's not realistic, but I love it. So yeah, somebody who we met really early on in the book and some kind of dramatic stuff happened to them, and then they just disappeared, and I kind of totally forgot about them, and you think you're never going to see them again, and they've just like cropped up again kind of a bit over halfway through the book, and that is really great, really loving that. And yeah, just like my opinions on the characters are changing. Actually, I was making some notes while I was on the plane, so I'm going to quickly look at those so I'm not just babbling. Yeah, I noted unreliable narrator in that, because Cyril, the main character, as he's called, is narrating his own story. There are really quite a lot of parts where I'm not 100% certain if that is like what actually happened. I also noted the parts that remind me of Fleabag. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the TV series Fleabag. There's something about, to be honest, it's probably just like the Catholic Church link, and the confession box is a scene where the character goes to confession, and even though it is completely different to like the confession scene in Fleabag, I don't know, it kind of, there were similar vibes. So yeah, just overall basically I'm really enjoying it. I would say I think I would prefer to be reading it than listening to the audiobook, because it is quite bingeable. The story is quite addictive, but also there are places where I would quite like to flick back, and there are places where I would want to read faster, and there are places where I'd want to read more slowly, and I do actually like increase and decrease the speed as I'm listening to something, which kind of mirrors that effect of speeding up and slowing down your reading, but you're never as in control when it's an audiobook. And there've definitely been, like with these characters who are being reintroduced, and there've been some characters who've come back in, and I am a little bit mixed up as to which character they are from earlier on in the book, and I would want to flick back and like reread parts, but it's not very easy to do that on an audiobook. So yeah, I think even though I love the audiobook and it's so well narrated, I do think it would work really well as a book to actually physically read. The final thing I've got, I guess, is just this quote, which I really love, and it says, "She lost her writing room, she lost her sanctuary. To have a place where you feel safe, where you can work, is more important than anyone can realise until it's gone, especially for a woman." And that really resonated with me. I really struggled last week, and this is on such a like smaller scale, but I had to sell my desk, and then I just had to work at the kitchen table, which is actually also what I'm going to be doing here, and I just don't have such a like level of privacy of space, and it does make it a lot harder to work, so that quote really resonated with me. I think I'm going to finish this vlog in a few days' time when I finish the book, because I've got a really busy weekend coming up, and I kind of want to start reading like a physical book that I've got here in my house in London, and I think it's just going to get too convoluted, and there's going to be too much footage if I try and continue this vlog on over the weekend and also pick up another book. I don't really know when it's going to end, so I think I'm going to just pop back on here for another reading update when I finish The Heart's Invisible Furies, which I will hopefully do over the weekend, and I'll let you know what I thought of it in the end. And in the meantime, I'll start another reading vlog. So thanks for following along with me on this wild week. I'm not really sure what I've actually filmed. I will have to go through my footage and see what I've captured. I don't know if I've talked about leaving Congo. We've left Congo, where we've lived for the last 4 years because of Tom's job, and it was kind of devastating. I don't think I've filmed, obviously I haven't filmed like tearful goodbyes to people, but it was really weird and upsetting to leave behind a place and just know that like we almost certainly will never go back, and I almost certainly will never see these people again. So yeah, that was really hard. At the same time, I think we both felt ready, like we feel ready to start this new chapter in London. I'm really excited and happy to be here. We just went to the shop and bought like so much healthy, tasty food. Tom's just making me dinner now, which I'm really excited for. And yeah, there's so much to love and be excited about living in London. But inevitably, like, the end of chapters is always sad and difficult, especially when they've been a really happy time, which Congo has. So that's been my week. Hello. I have finished The Heart's Invisible Furies, so I thought I would just give you a quick summary of what I thought in the end, and then sign off this reading vlog. I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it, for the first time in my life, a 0.25. Gave it 4.25 stars, because I really loved it. It was like more than a 4-star read for me, but a 4.5 star is kind of coming up to like nearly a perfect, like one of my all-time favourites as a read, and I don't think it fell into that category. Like, I probably won't reread it. I really enjoyed it. I thought the plot was really gripping. I thought the characterisation was great. I liked the way it was written. There was just something that didn't make it an all-time favourite, and I think it's possibly a combination of the fact that, like, maybe I went in with slightly too high expectations, because I've had a few friends lately tell me how, like, it's one of their favourite books of all time, and I think also just a little bit the way in which I read it. I wasn't able to immerse myself in it as much as I would have liked to. I think this is the kind of book where, had I read it on holiday and been able to just, like, consume the whole thing in a day or two, I would probably have had a better experience with it. Not that my experience was bad by any means. So ultimately, I think it was about halfway through when I last gave you an update, or maybe a bit over halfway through. It was a real saga kind of book in terms of, it took this character Cyril. We follow him through from before he's born, when he's in his mother's womb, basically, and we follow like the beginning of his mother's story right up until he is a really, really elderly man. And I love that. I love books where you see the changes of the decades, and this was a really fascinating examination of the way that Irish society has changed over the course of the 20th century. You kind of can't believe at the end the amount of social change that has taken place over the course of a lifetime, and it's really tragic to look back on how awful it was for Cyril in his youth, as he's like realising that he's a gay man and just doesn't know how to deal with that, and it kind of messes up the course of his whole life in a way. Not entirely, but it definitely has a hugely damaging impact on his life and on who he becomes as a person. And we've sort of seen the direct and awful impact that those social norms had on our characters. And so while we feel kind of happy and relieved with them at the end as these more positive changes are coming into society, I think you still feel heartbroken for all the suffering that they went through, almost especially heartbroken for them, because you kind of want them to be reborn into an age in which they will stand a chance of living a fuller, richer, happier life. So yeah, loads of really interesting like social analysis throughout, which I loved, and I love seeing the whole arc of somebody's life and the whole arc of society changing that runs alongside that. Thanks so much for coming along on my Heart's Invisible Furies reading week and on my moving continents week in my life. I hope that you're doing well, and I will see you soon in another video.